We got Gardner-Webb head coach Cris Reisert, second season with the program. Coach, so let's just open up some general thoughts on your team, and then we'll go to some questions.
Yeah, thank you. One, it's a pleasure to be here, fired up to be a part of this day, fired up for the 2025 football season. It's been a tremendous offseason for our program. Touching on last year, year one is always a challenge. There are so many processes that you need to put in place, so many opportunities to learn and grow. Programmatically, when we got here last year, we had around 38 players and one returning starter, and we looked a lot different than we do now. Moving forward, we're a much healthier roster. We return 18 guys that have started football games for us, another 15 that have played a lot of football for us. And so really excited about our retention from last year to this year. The growth is evident by the way they've worked in the weight room and personally developed, and certainly what we've done on the field. I hope that can yield some big dividends for us in the 2025 season. Anxious to allow that to reap some fruit, and anxious to see those guys go to work.
Thanks, Coach. Again, you got questions, let me know down here in the chat, and we will get you on with Coach. Coach, I'll start off then while people are raising their hand here. You mentioned, the number of returners and the number of new people have. What have you learned on how to mesh those people together? Every year's going to be different on the number you have. So do you learn each year? Does it make it easier, or is it just the same every year?
No, I think you're constantly evolving as a coach. One of our big things within our program is Kaizen. It means continuous improvement. And that goes for me too. Myself and our staff are constantly evolving, trying to figure out how to mesh different personalities and different backgrounds and create one big family and one holistic team. And I think that we learned a lot from year one in the sense of what it needs to look and feel like. And I think more than anything, we've been able to double down on what we believe, on who we are and what we stand for as a program. I think we've been able to very clearly delineate to potential recruits and guys that are coming into our program of what they can expect. We're going to be Christ-centered. We're going to honor and glorify him in all that we do. We're going to be process-based. We want to be able to develop really holistic processes and plans for guys to develop in each area of their life. We're going to be relationship based and invest time and energy in one another. And then the last thing is we want to make sure that every single day we're growing. And so I think it's gotten easier, but we're certainly evolving as we go.
We got Jacob Conley with some questions. Go ahead, Jacob, with your questions for Coach.
Hey, Coach, can you hear me?
Hey, Jacob, how are you? I got you loud and clear.
Doing well. Coach, it's been a little bit quiet as far as during the off season, but how would you rate the progress of this team, and are they excited and ready to go for week one?
I sure hope so, Jacob. If not, I think we got a lot of trouble on our hands. I think our guys are really, really anxious to put on display the work and the energy that they put forth all off season. There's a hunger, there's an energy that there is a lot to prove. We understand as a program, 4-8 is not good enough, and there's an underperformance there, and we've got to work every day to rectify that. And so you don't really get to control your circumstances. You don't get to control that you had 38 guys when you got here. That's all irrelevant when it comes down to, as coaches, our job is to develop young people and make sure they learn and grow, but to win football games. And so we've got to make improvements there, and we are certainly anxious and eager, I think, to prove that that'll show up.
Tell me a little bit about some of the returners that you're excited about, and then maybe some of the newcomers fans can expect big things from this season.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Thanks for the question, Jacob. Offensively, we're fired up about Anthony Lowe. He's a guy that played a good bit of football for us last year, really didn't get healthy until about week 8, to where he was fully kind of back to his old self, and ended up making a lot of big plays, had 2 punt returns that were called back and amongst a lot of plays on offense. And so I think he's going to have a dynamic year. Preseason all conference guy as a returner and as a receiver. I think at the running back position, we're really, really excited about the room. Quayshawn Holmes, Carson Griesbach, both played a ton of football for us. Both have had tremendous off seasons of development and growth. Coach Penix, our running backs coach, has been really instrumental in that. And those guys are both due for big years. And then I think the biggest piece from a returning perspective offensively is we've got 5 linemen that started games for us last year that are back, and so there's a lot of continuity there. There certainly has been growth that has happened, but I think when you start at a much higher level at one position, that matters. And you know, in totality, that's the most important position on our football team. Defensively, the guys that we're really excited about that are back. You know, it starts up front for us, Jacob. You know, we've got Robert Holtz at one end, and we've got Antonio Berry at another end, and both those guys were amongst the league leaders in sacks and TFLs last year. They're both back and hungry to improve even more. Beyond them at that position, Justin Isler is a guy that's played a ton of football at Gardner-Webb over his time, and he's back with us as well. So really, really excited about those three. At the linebacker spot, you know, Jackson Marshall, who I think is going to join us here in a little bit, is back as well. He suffered an injury in the middle of last year, was our starting Mike linebacker, the voice of our defense, tremendous leader. Having him back and healthy and better is awesome. And then we also have at linebacker one guy that got hurt in week 6 that we're so excited to have back in Jakari Bryson. So Jakari really started to come onto his own towards the tail end of last year, right before he got hurt. And he's a dynamic dude that's going to make a ton of plays. And then finish it up on the back end. I know I'm giving you a lot, but want to make sure I do my due diligence. Finish it up in the back end, you know, really two guys of note. Wendell McClain, you know, started 7-8 games for us at free safety last year. He's back and really eager. He's taken a big jump this offseason from a leadership perspective, and his body has changed immensely. I'm really, really excited for him. Stephen Rose at the other safety is a guy that started the first 4 weeks and then battled an Achilles. We never got back for the last part of the year. And so both those guys are healthy and ready. And then the last guy I'll mention is Darius Johnson, was a special teams kind of ace for us last year, made a ton of plays. And he's had a year of development at corner, and I'm really excited for his opportunities there.
Okay, just quick look at the schedule. I know I've got this one circled on my calendar, and some other fans do too, is your trip to Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
Last time Gardner-Webb was up there, it came down to the final play of the game. So talk about your excitement for that game and what it means to the program to play at ACC school.
Well, if you told me we're going to find ourselves in that position again, I would take it right now and never look back. But no, I love it. I think it's an awesome opportunity. I've learned a lot about that game. You know, that's something that certainly we will talk about and think about as a football team as we get ready to embark upon that challenge. Anytime you get a chance to play a team of that caliber is a chance to test your mettle, you know, and we just look at them as opportunities. You know, they're not obstacles. It's what's in front of us, and it's a chance for us to play our best football game. And however the chips fall over after that, they fall. But the atmosphere, the energy, I think, for our program and for our fan base to get to go down to Atlanta and be a part of that, we're fired up for it, and certainly are excited for the challenge.
Just a couple more questions. Can you tell me a little bit about a local product from Rutherford County, Zaylin Watkins, and your early impressions of him?
Yeah, no, Zaylen's been awesome. You know, he got here June 24th with the rest of our freshmen. He's a guy that played multiple positions. You know, in high school was on offense, played D tackle, played DN, played linebacker, played tight end, played running back. I think he probably played quarterback at some point. You know, literally did it all. And he's been really, really good for us. He's got a great head on his shoulders. Comes from a great family. He's a young man that fits our culture very, very well. And we're really excited for him to grow and develop within our program and be a pivotal piece as we evolve and as we move forward with him. The other local guy that I think's done a great job is Caleb Borders. He's a Crest High School product, and he had a really good year for us as a junior, but his offseason's been elite, and we're anxious for him to take a step forward as a senior.
And lastly, just talk about some of the goals that y'all have talked about, not necessarily win-loss, but just some of the other things that go along with that for the season.
Yeah, you know, be the best version of us every day. You know, we talk about small wins, just focusing on little victories each day, whether they're individual or they're offensive or defensive or special teams or they're programmatic. I think those little victories, those small wins that you can hunt and that you achieve, you know, it's going to build momentum and it's going to create lasting change eventually. And so we're just on the process of every day hunting for the small wins, being meticulous and being focused on how do we improve, where do we improve, to make sure that we're strategic about it, but understanding that if you do enough in the short term, eventually those little things become big things and you get to reap the reward of that. And so trying to stay very micro, very focused, and our guys have really adopted that and done a great job with it.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Dave. Great to see you.
All right.
We're going to go to Eric Luss from North Carolina Football News. Go ahead, Eric.
All right. Can you hear me all right, Coach?
I got you. Hey, Eric, how you doing?
Yeah, it's good to meet you. Good to talk to you.
Yes, sir.
Talk a little bit about, I know you have 40 plus transfers on your roster. You go JUCO, you go D2, FBS. Just talk about that process and how do you mesh a group like that together, get them on that one vision that you want them to be on?
Yeah, I don't know that it's a strategy that I would employ if we didn't have to.
Right.
When we got here, we did have a very small roster, and so
Mm,
and not a ton of returning success, and so it was really pivotal for us to go and find guys that had played collegiate
mm,
football and had done it at a high level and get them in the program. You're talking about adding 60 to 70 guys
right.
over the course of last season, just to be able to fill a football team, and so it was pivotal that we did that. If you look at this last cycle, it's been transfer heavy as well.
Mm,
Just in the idea that we need to continue to evolve in the short term. Really, the
right.
class of 26 is the first class that we're actually able to recruit the way that we want to. You have the time,
Mm,
you have the ability to build
right.
those relationships and spend that opportunity with high school kids and parents and coaches. And so we hope moving forward, you're going to see a much more of a developmental
Mm,
programmatic approach.
right.
We don't want to be a school that's bringing in 30 transfers a year. Unfortunately, that's kind of been the hand that we're dealt, and you can either
Right.
complain about it or figure it out. And so we chose to go this route in a way to figure it out. But I think what you'll see from us, Eric, is we have done that initially. Moving forward, we'll be strategic about adding
Mm,
certain pieces.
right.
But I hope that the bigger piece of the puzzle are guys that are with us and chose Gardner-Webb out of high school and
Mm,
can be a part of a
right.
developmental program that helps them evolve over time.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. Um, have you talked about your quarterback situation? Is there a QB1 or is it still a battle or some other strategy there?
Yeah, we hadn't mentioned it yet. We've got two that we love. Nate Hampton from Liberty has been
Mm,
amazing since he stepped foot on campus. Has playing experience there in a variety of different ways. Threw a touchdown in their last bowl game.
mm,
It was neat. He had already committed, and so you get a chance to watch him in the bowl game and knowing that he's
right.
coming. And so that was a neat experience. And we were on the way to dinner, and I'm like, honey, we gotta give me 5 more minutes. Nate's playing. And so that was
That's
cool.
great.
Gives you a crazy idea of college football, right? But and then beyond Nate is Cole Pennington, and so the two of them are really duking it out. They have been,
Right.
all spring and all summer. Cole's a transfer from Marshall. I think he started 8 games there, and so we're excited about both of those guys. I think both have high level potential at the FCS level, and both are capable of being starters. And I think that's a nice asset for us to have that we've been able to develop since we've gotten here.
Right. You talk a little bit about Finley Polk. I know he was a pretty huge recruit for you guys to get, really
Yep.
lit it up in South Carolina. So talk about him a little bit.
Finley's been awesome. So Finley was an early enrollee for us. So
Mm,
he came last spring, has been with us for a spring and a summer, and everything you think you're going to get, you're getting. You get
mm,
a guy that understands how to win, understands how to lead, is tough, is detailed, is disciplined, wants to elevate our culture. That's important to him in addition to being a quarterback and making the adjustment from just finishing winning a state championship to now all of a sudden new
right.
offense, new system, new school, all the above. Like anything, it
Mm,
hits you in the face a little bit. And Finn handled it so well. And so we've seen growth in him every day, and it's continuing to evolve. We hope that he's going to be a centerpiece for us for a long time.
right. And one more question, if you don't mind, just talk about the opener, Western Carolina, that, I guess big things are expected out of them. You got
Yeah.
Georgia Tech, you got Ohio, and then you got Western Carolina. So pretty stacked non-conference schedule for you guys.
Yeah, we're going to learn a lot about ourselves. I think we've got one of the toughest schedules in the country, and we relish that. I think you want to find out where you're at, and if you're not where you need to be, then you kaizen and you figure out how to improve.
Mm,
And so we don't shy away from it. We'll attack it. We'll play to win, and however it falls, it falls. On the Western Carolina front, I think it's awesome. The opportunity to play another North Carolina school. I think those regional rivalries are really, really unique and something that we need to cherish and relish in. And so the more opportunities we can to play a school like Western, I think the better.
mm,
And certainly Coach Bell has those guys rolling. I'm sure they'll be picked in the top of the SoCon. I would imagine with the returners they have, and so it's a tremendous test ahead of us, and one that we'll think about eventually. We've been so worried about just trying to find ways to improve and trying to find ways just to get 1% better on our own that, that's been the focus. But I think as we get closer, throughout fall camp and you kind of delve deeper into things, we know that there's a large challenge looming and one that I really genuinely believe that we'll be ready to attack.
Very good. Thank you, Coach. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Eric. Appreciate your questions.
Yes, sir.
Coach Mark Simpson here at the Big South office. Good to see you. Just a couple from me. First, you talked about it earlier, but just going from year one as the head coach to year two, what were some of those specific things that you've noticed that you all as a staff are working on, based on last year?
Yeah, I think one is just the continuity piece. I think, it's amazing when you have so much new, whether it's players, coaches, you're trying to figure out the processes of the institution, of the athletic department, the processes even with athletic training and with your SID and all the above. There's just a lot of new. And so as you go through that, it creates stressors outside that you can control that you've got to get comfortable with. And so I think as a staff, I think we've leaned into who we are and what we need to be at Gardner-Webb. One of the things that we had to focus on from year one to year two was just consistently being able to execute at a high level regardless of circumstances. And I think the discipline piece of being able to play well when it got hard, when it got tight. If you look at our game last year, we had a ton of close football games. We had a chance to beat JMU at the end of that game, had a chance to beat Charlotte. We had a chance with SEMO. We were in it very late, in it with Tennessee State, in it with Wofford in our opener, chances late in games to win those games. And I didn't think that we had enough to fall back on from a training perspective to win those games. And I think moving forward, we do. You think about adding all those players, there's not really an off season. Your time is spent in recruiting. It's not spent in developing. And with us being able to retain the amount of players that we did, now our focus became on the guys that were in the building rather than trying to get guys to show up to the building. And just that focus on development and growth has been so instrumental. And so we've been able to do a lot of hard things this offseason as a group. Our guys have faced a ton of adversity. They've been put in challenging and hard situations almost daily, forcing them to have to respond as a group, forcing them to have to respond with a positive mindset and a can-do will. And I believe that as we get into those close football games, that training, that adversity understanding, it's gonna rain through, and it's gonna give us an opportunity to win these games as we get into the 2025 season.
And my last question for you, Coach, I know talked a little bit about your schedule. The one game on that I'm looking forward to is the Barbecue Bowl with Charleston Southern. Just how last year's experience winning that game and just what it means to have that little rivalry between you two.
Yeah, kind of like I mentioned, I think the regional piece is awesome. And so I'm fired up to do that again. Certainly we'll be hosting this year. The Barbecue Bowl is a really unique thing, a chance to kind of celebrate, the lineage of both schools and then just to celebrate college football. I think one of the coolest things about college football is the pageantry and the rivalries and the commitment that fan bases and universities make to football. And so I love it. Their president had to come up. He and his son were very, very gracious, and they brought barbecue last year, and it was amazing to visit with him. And it's just a fun experience. And I think both schools have leaned into it a little bit. And so we're fired up to do it again. Anytime in the middle of the year, you have something a little bit of extra to play for as a coach, makes my job easier. I'd like to play for 12 trophies if we could, and that certainly would make the motivation aspect a little bit easier. But I think it's a cool thing, and I'm glad that we do it.
Awesome. Thank you, Coach. Good luck this season.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, Coach. Appreciate your time and best of luck to you and your team all year long.
Thanks, Kyle. Appreciate you.